Hello, thank you for having me here. Today I'm going to speak about my 3D model, yes. But before that, I'm going to start with the topic of this section of the day, right, about pathos. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've always been passionate about reading. Unfortunately, there are very few jobs in this world that pay you to read, right? So I started this when I was really young because my father figured out a way to make reading really fun. So I learned to read at 3 years old, and I kept reading and reading and reading. And when I got older, I thought that maybe I could transform this into a job. And I realized when I was about a teenager that people are more interested in accepting you in their group if you're telling them stories. So I started to read stuff and actually tell stories about what I was reading. And this is how I got accepted. And it kept bugging me, how could I actually make a job out of this? And then I found out that there is a job. It's called a trainer or a teacher. And you actually read and learn, and then you share what you're learning, and you get paid for it. So for the last 15 years, I've been a trainer and an entrepreneur. I say that I've been an entrepreneur because I've also managed to make a living out of being passionate about reading and learning. And I was really curious to figure out where did this come from. And I don't know if you heard of Brian Little. He's a research Cambridge professor, and he dedicated a lot of his time to figure out where does personality come from. And his theory is that 50% of our personality is ingrained in our genes, and 25% comes from where we've been raised, and the external environment, parents, friends, and so on. Besides that, we still have 25%. That's 25% of free will, who we choose to be. And I think that in my case, in that genes soup bowl, I got curiosity ingrained and the passion for learning. Besides that, at a later age, I discovered that I also like connecting people. And that was the moment when I realized that I could actually make a living out of my passion for reading and learning. Because we learn the most when we teach others. So it was all about learning. How actually you can transform this into a job or into making a living? It's an easy equation. You need to figure out a way to find people that need what you sell and also want what you sell. So the fact that you are good at learning, it's not good enough, or it's not enough. You need to find people that are in need of your learning and of your teachings, and also want to pay for that. Unfortunately, where I'm coming from, I don't know how it's in Greece, in Romania, people are not really willing to pay too much for education. They think that is needed, but when it comes to wanting it, it just doesn't seem that they want it bad enough to actually buy it. So this is where a conflict kind of started. You know, I'm passionate about these topics, and I'm really good at these, but how can I make it a meaningful life and also to have some food on the table? Because it's really nice to do what you're passionate about, to feel that there is meaning in your life, but if there is the bank knocking at your door, then it's not fun anymore. So the journey to a meaningful life started when I decided, okay, so this is what I'm good at, this is what I could sell, finding the people to sell it to, what other variables are in this equation. I heard this quote from Dalai Lama. He said that if you're happy and useful, you found the meaning in life. Okay, so the question was how to be useful and also earn a living out of it. Because I was really excited, I found what a meaningful life meant for me. So when you have it all figured out, the red carpet unrolls, and you're an Oscar nominee. But how do you get the Oscar for the most meaningful life? Well, first, you need to ask yourself if you want this Oscar. If you really want to find out what a meaningful life means for you, how this is defined for you, and how much you're willing to work for it, how much effort you're willing to put in. So for me, the whole journey was quite complex. I've been looking into it for about 30 years. I've been also going in circles sometime, and I've also had crossroads and thinking which way to go. There were times when I wanted to give up being a trainer. There were times when I thought that I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur because my companies were not so successful. Actually, I bankrupted a couple of them. So then I said, okay, let's silence this noise. Let's take some moments to reflect. And I came up with this simple recipe. So I distilled everything into these 3 steps. Dream wildly, plan well, dare do more, and with passion. Why these? Because people need simple recipes, things that they can relate to, and it's much easier if you put them in keywords. So let's take them a little bit one by one. You had grandmothers, right? So I heard that in Greece also, as in my country, grandmothers like to cook and feed you with a lot of food. Yes. Well, why do you think they do that? Because it makes them happy, right? And they feel useful. So I think they have a meaningful life when you eat their food. I don't know about you, if you feel the same, but it's been proven, actually scientifically proven, that the same parts of the brain are triggered when you are altruistic, so useful to others, as when you are having sex, drugs, listening to music, eating food, or practicing religion. Now that's an interesting fact, isn't it? And in all this process, you could integrate this recipe. The dream wildly might be something that you need when you think that nothing is possible anymore, you don't see a solution out of things, you can't figure out a way out. And then if you allocate some time to actually, like even now, take out the phones and write down what you dreamt of being or becoming when you were a little kid. Those are truest to our hearts, actually. Some other times, we need more planning. And some other times, we need to forget about the dreams, forget about the plans. We need to just figure out a way to find our courage down deep and do. Start doing an action. And put some passion into it, because passion is the fuel of action. Even if fears come running after us, still figure out a way to do it. So let's go through this. Join me in this journey. People say that you need to get out of your comfort zone. Find out what you're good at. And if you get out there, you will find other people like you, and together you can build a community and do things, and so on and so forth. That's wonderful, but it's quite difficult to get out of your comfort zone. Let's be honest. It's not something that you can do like when you drink coffee in the morning. So I would say let's start in our comfort zone. So how about this? This is what I see as a comfort zone. A country house and staying with the friends around the fire and talking leisurely, talking even about our dreams. Because it's a perfect environment, it's really comfortable, you're comfortable with your friends, you will feel comfortable to share dreams that you think that are maybe perhaps not so realistic or even impossible, but you'll feel comfortable to talk about them. Now then, you can go also home and remember that you have those 25% of free will. of you choosing who you want to be. There is the other 75 that you cannot control, but you still have 25. So you can go home and actually, those dreams, put them on paper, let them simmer, and they will filter down to something. Even if you don't allocate time for them and you work on something else, one day an idea will pop up and this dream from childhood will come back again. And this is how you will also discover the gifts that you have and something that you could give to others, be useful, and thus have a meaningful life. The plan works only if it moves you further. So if you plan something, like a trip, for example, a couple of years ago, I was thinking of going to Bali. And it was really nice, you know. I think you've all planned trips, right? So you're thinking, what should you put in the luggage? What plane ticket to buy? What could you visit when you get there? It's an enjoyable experience. It's actually been proven scientifically that it's so enjoyable that we have the same triggers in our brain as the actual holiday. And then my boss called and said, I've got it all figured out. You're going to start a project tomorrow. So goodbye Bali trip, right? But I had a backup plan. My plan B was to go to Lefkada. And it was actually a very good plan because that happened and I really loved Lefkada. Now, was it a good plan? Was it a wish list? I would say that the Bali plan was a wish list. The backup plan happened and it moved me further. So that was a good plan. Now, sometimes plans don't work. Like, for example, when you want to give up sugar. I gave up sugar for 30 days, like literally looking at all the labels, making sure that that thing doesn't have sugar. If it has, I won't eat it. It was challenging, but it was an ambition. I was stubborn about it, so I did it. I have a friend that decided that his family was watching too much TV, so he sold all the TVs from the apartment. He calls that surgical change. Like you remove it completely from your environment. Well, for me, that didn't work out with sweets and sugar. And I don't think that it works so easily. Because sugar is something that we kind of need, maybe not in such big quantities, but we definitely want. And I bet that the inventor of sugar was someone that wanted to sell the sugar. So that was the recipe. So in these cases, the best is to try small steps, and it will get you further. As long as you move, it's good. It doesn't matter if the dream seems still so far, far away. If it gets you further, even a little bit, then the plan works, and it's helpful. And the last step is dare do. I write it together because they are coming in a pair, you know? It's like you dare a little bit, you do a little bit, you dare a bit more, then you do a bit more. And of course, sometimes it's not even 3 steps, it's just 1 step and the whole jump, you know? You might figure out a way to dance with your fears and say, hey, come on, we're gonna jump now. And actually do it. The passion is fueling this courage, and all those gifts, if you figure them out, will keep the fire going. Of course, at a certain moment, it will get really lonely because the extra mile is not a crowded place. And that's the moment when we give in. You know, maybe the economic crisis happens, or you lose your job, or the baby gets sick, so forget about the dreams. You need to focus on the problems that are at hand and figure out the solution for those. And then you ignore what you're good at, what your dreams were, how to actually make a living, a meaningful living, out of that instead of something else. But you need to figure out a way to stay on that road, and you can do this with discipline. Actually, the successful people know that you can be really talented, but 99% is sweat and work. I've put this in a book, And I use this book in workshops. How things work for me, it's that if we were to watch a movie together, for example, you would be excited about the plot, while I would take out my phone and look up and see if that movie was made after a book, and how did that book become successful. So the entrepreneur inside me is thinking, how could you make money out of a book, perhaps? And the trainer in me is thinking, how can I use this in a workshop in the following days? So I ended up using, for example, 50 Shades of Grey in explaining Bloom's taxonomy, which is something very serious, or explaining book marketing. This is one of my gifts, learning. And I found a way to live a meaningful life with it, to live a meaningful life and also a plentiful life where I can make money out of my passion. And it all started with a trip in my genetics mix, figuring out what are my gifts. So I wish you the same. I wish you dare do live a meaningful life. Figure out what are your dreams, what are your gifts, accept them even if perhaps they are not so socially accepted, maybe they are eccentric. Make a plan, as long as it moves you further, that's a good plan. Small steps, and when it's time to jump, just jump. Thank you very much.